Hello everybody, it's GirlGotGame, and welcome to another Gander. Today, I am taking a gander at When Stars Collide, a visual novel demo snapshot from somebody that we may be all a little familiar with, Steamberry Studio, or some of us have come to know her, Esh. I played Changeling for my channel not too long ago, and she just recently has been working on Gilded Shadows, but this is another little demo from her. A Sci-Fi one this time around. She's apparently been working on this for quite a few years. I need to shout out Sarah from Discord for tagging me and letting me know that this was released for a Mare Jam. I would have missed it otherwise, because I've been kind of negligent on the Twitter space lately. So thank you, Sarah. When I saw that Esh had worked on this, I'm like, of course I gotta go check it out. So the story for this is... In When Stars Collide, the player joins the crew of the Ophelia, a deep space exploration vessel, as they uncover a trove of technology from a nearly forgotten species. Unaware that among the items they unearth is an inhabited stasis pod, the crew recovers the found items but inadvertently awakens the occupant of the pod in the process. Upon awakening, Wil Nymera, a young interstellar wanderer, discovers they've been asleep for nearly 500 years. With nowhere else to go, Wil temporarily joins the crew after revealing they are Veleian, an ancient species known for their telepathy, incredible technology, and tendency to either guide younger races toward betterment, or else obliterate them. Wil quickly becomes the target of people seeking the near-mythical home world of their father. The crew of the Ophelia find themselves caught in a struggle between ancient powers and newer factions, eager to get their hands on Veleia's tech. Also, I will apologize in advance because I'm probably horribly mispronouncing all these names, but there you go. Anyway, let's jump in and see what we've got going on here. Customizable MC, yes, you love to see it. Alright. So, pronouns she, her. Okay, she, her works for me. So I was in the stasis pod, eh? Nice, nice. Skin tones. What do we got? Okay. I like the default. Body type. Body 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. I can't really tell the difference between 3 and 4. But I think body 1 works for me. Hairstyles, what do we got? By the way, get comfy. Once I get into these character customization things, I'll be here a while. I really like this one. Yeah. Face shape. Yep. I think that'll work. Ooh. Black or white? I think I'm gonna go white. Yeah. Choose your descriptive nouns. This list is non-exhaustive, and these are only example words that may or may not actually appear in the game. Neutral, this is my child. You are a good person. Hello, Mix Nymera, this is Wil, my partner. Masculine, this is my son. Feminine. Well, if I'm going she, her, I'll do feminine, I think. Okay. I actually wasn't in there too long. I love these pants, by the way. And yeah, there's my girl, Wil. So you can change the name too, but I'll stick with it. Alright. Don't know who's talking yet.
I know you'll hate me for this. No, I know you already hate me. But this is necessary, Wil. This one time, I cannot ignore things and allow you to do what you want. Your path has been unclear to me from the time you were born, but you have always been more than you allow yourself to be. And you are the only one that can do this. I hope we'll at least meet again someday. I truly hope your path leads to a point where we can meet again. I have so much I want to tell you.
The muffled voice was fading, and the speaking figure had become little more than a blurred silhouette against the light. I tried to reach for him, tried to get my mouth to form a response, tried to think. I could not. Light faded, taking everything else with it, and the silhouette was swallowed by darkness. The voice dulled to a hum. In the dark, there was a song, and I slept. Prologue, The Dark World. Ooh. I really like how this looks so far. Like the UI and everything. Very nice. 493 years later. Transitions are really nice too. Noel? Probably Noel. And Daz? Days? Daz? Like I said, I'm gonna butcher these names.
Status Daz. EM drive is engaged. Operium cloud density is at 98.4%. Our connection with real time and space is stable.
Are these clickable thingies? They are clickable, yes! Give me all the details. I love this. I'm glad this is here too. A device allowing a ship to safely enter black holes and other dangerous regions of space by creating a bubble, known as the Operium cloud, around the ship, connecting them to normal space and time, and preventing them from being affected by the regions around them. Elotonic matter is a form of exotic matter that is used to safely enter and explore black holes. It was discovered by and is regulated by the Mining Guild, who sell it at a high price to people in the private sector. It can be purchased elsewhere, but is lower quality and decays faster. And Operium Cloud. A bubble around the ship that protects it from the extreme tidal forces and time dilation of a black hole, and keeps it connected to external world lines so the ship can wait the can wait? Exit? Yes, that's the word. Exit the black hole safely. This is the purpose of the EM drive. Operium Cloud must maintain a density of 95% to protect the ship and stay connected to the external world lines. Okay, interesting.
We can proceed, Noel.
Oh, hello. And you give me, like, strong Elliot vibes.
Asher, take us into the ergosphere. Slowly this time, if you please.
Ergosphere? The ergosphere is a region located outside a black hole's outer event horizon. The outer surface of the ergosphere is called the static surface, or static limit. This is because world lines change from being time-like outside the static limit to being space-like inside it. Okay.
You're starting to sound like an old man, Noel. Where's your sense of adventure? I think I left it in the last black hole we visited. Along with a good portion of the hull, you'll recall. We survived. Slowly, Asher. You're no fun at all. I'd rather be boring than dead.
The pilot let out a chuckle, but he never moved his eyes from the controls despite his teasing. He eased the Ophelia into the ergosphere at the rotating black hole, and it disappeared from normal space moments later. Okay. Whoa. Stellar mass black hole. A stellar mass black hole is a black hole formed by the gravitational collapse of an extremely massive star. Unlike supermassive black holes found in the center of galaxies, stellar mass black holes have masses ranging from about 5 to 100 solar masses, solar mass being the mass of Earth's sun. This collapse is usually observed as a hypernova explosion, a particularly energetic supernova. Rotating black holes contain a ring-like singularity, which can be safely traversed, unlike the point-like singularities of a non-rotating black hole. All black holes that are surrounded by intense tidal forces are prone to unexpected X-ray bursts, and are capable of obliterating any matter that comes near them. In addition, the intense gravitational forces bend space-time, causing extreme time dilations, slowing down of time, near the event horizon. Ships are only able to safely enter and exit with the use of an EM drive. Okay, makes sense.
Daz, how are we doing? Space-time warping is within normal parameters. At current speed, we'll cross through the event horizon in 2 minutes.
I really like Daz's look, by the way. It's really cool.
Sounds good. Asher, all okay on your end? It's fine, Noel. Stop worrying. I've done this 100 times. Just keep an ear out for anything anomalous. That goes for everyone. I'd like the ship to make it out in one piece. Rife still hasn't stopped complaining since the last dive. You mean how it took 2 weeks to repair the gate resonance manifold?
Yeah, that thing. In order to traverse the wormholes that make up the nexus used for travel throughout most of the galaxy, advanced species have built a series of entry gates that emit a low-frequency transmission that resonates with the cosmic strings that keep the wormholes stable. Ship engines are designed to harmonize with this transmission, allowing them to travel inside the wormhole nexus without being torn apart or thrown out at random locations. Without a functioning resonance system, ships will be prevented from entering the nexus when they attempt to enter through a gate. The wormhole nexus is necessary for traveling long distances quickly, and is critical to interstellar travel through the Milky Way galaxy. Any ship unable to enter the nexus is doomed to much slower forms of travel, sometimes taking months or years to travel distances the wormhole nexus would allow for in a few hours. Okay, so we're still in the Milky Way galaxy, good to know.
And how the hull crumpled like paper due to someone being careless. Yeah. I can't predict every gravitational anomaly or unexpected X-ray burst, you know.
Though everyone was well trained and experienced, they were stepping into one of the most dangerous phenomenon that existed in space for the first time since their last dive had nearly gotten them killed. Not that mild nerves would make Noel think twice about what they were about to do, but caution wouldn't go amiss. Asher held the ship steady and drifted across the event horizon without even the slightest tremor.
The singularity is ahead of us. We're following the space-time distortion straight through it.
A gravitational singularity is a condition where gravity is so intense that space-time breaks down and can no longer be determined by where or when. In a non-rotating black hole, Schwarzschild black hole, it's probably not how you say that, the singularity occurs at a single point, but in a rotating black hole, Kerr black hole, the singularity occurs on a ring. Okay, non-rotating is single point. Rotating is on the ring. Okay, gotcha.
Everything looks good. World line is intact. We're in the clear, Noel.
Also called a geodesic, this is the straight line traced by all particles in the universe. A being's world line is their path through the cosmos. Okay. Essentially, a world line of an object is the sequence of space-time events corresponding to the history of the object. Upon entering a black hole, all world lines lead into the singularity, and whatever fate awaits there unless a ship is encased in an Operium cloud to stay connected to their external world lines, allowing them to backtrack and exit the black hole. Okay, interesting. I get it. I'm starting to get it.
You heard the man, Asher. Let's do it.
Oh, hello, Frace. I hope that's how I say your name.
No, the first results from inside the dimensional sphere are showing something unusual. I'm seeing a significant concentration of metals and metalloids. Silicon, aluminum, iron, gold, gallium, xyrite.
Small pocket dimensions that exist beyond the singularities of rotating black holes. They sometimes hold rare materials, but can also house dark worlds. Most people who go diving are searching for a dimensional sphere. Veleians have other uses for dimensional spheres, including creating artificial ones that can be locked, organized, and programmed with specific properties. Wil Nymera has one as a closet, and all of Veleian space has been locked away inside one. Okay. Just in a little pocket there. Great.
And there's a hell of a lot of oxygen in there.
As the second-in-command spoke, Dawes double-checked the monitors at his station as well.
I'm getting the same. There appears to be an object of a significant amount of mass inside, with most of it appearing to be gathered in a single location.
Noel left his position to join Frace at his station, expression going taut.
Anything more specific than that, you two?
Based on what I'm seeing, I think there's a good chance we're heading towards a dark world. Significant amounts of heavier elements. probably terrestrial.
Dark worlds are some of the most mysterious bodies in the known universe. They exist beyond the veil of a black hole's event horizon, and inside the dimensional spheres found there, but fewer than 1 in 100 stellar mass black holes contain them. Dark worlds can be of any planetary type, but most of them are barren and possess strange physical qualities. Or not passes. Poses? I guess that's supposed to be poses. Or possess. My goodness, I cannot read. Possess! Come on, eyes, you can do this. Possess strange physical qualities. There we go. While no society has ever been found on one, there are occasionally life forms, both plant and animal. How these organisms are able to live within dimensional spheres is still unknown. Biosamples are often taken from these worlds when they are found in order to discover how they're able to thrive there. Because many of them require very specific conditions to survive, the UA has outlawed taking live animals from dark worlds. Okay. The only sanctioned biosamples are plant. There have been remnants of technology found on them before, indicating maybe some archaean species have explored them before. The Travel Guild has an entire internal department dedicated to studying any dark worlds found and logged away by guild or independent ships. Okay. Eyes glittering with excitement, Noel looked back at the primary screen as Asher slid past the singularity. A dark world. Only the 6th in his career, but the 2nd since he'd taken command of the Ophelia. The last one had been nearly 3 years ago. He was eager to see what this one was like.
Asher, proceed with caution. I know.
Ooh. Pretty. As the Ophelia crossed into the dimensional sphere, the black void melted into a scene of violet swirls of light and smoke wrapped around jagged floating rocks. And there, just off port, a dark planet shrouded in what looked like violet mist.
His face like, whoa! Holy hell, look at that. What are scanners showing, Dawes? The radius of the planet is about 2,600 kilometers. An M2 Lunarian. I'm reading an oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere. Surface water... ...
Ooh, classification system. The Planetary classification system was created centuries ago by an Earth scientist. At the time, the current United Coalition of Worlds was very poorly organized and didn't recognize a standard classification system. This one was ultimately adopted, which is why it uses some naming conventions based off the Sol system. The base classifications are largely about mass and composition, while the subtypes relate more to climate, habitability, and notable features. It is standard for the UCW and is used by non-aligned worlds sometimes too. Classification mostly about mass and composition. Protoplanet, uninhabited, still forming, hot, chaotic, terrestrial, gas. Minor planets and dwarf planets, that's M1. Rocky, icy, and sometimes volcanic bodies. Mercurian, bigger than the moon up to around the size of Mercury. Lunarian, smaller than Mercury up to the size of the moon. M2 moon, so this is an M2 Lunarian. Rocky, icy, and sometimes volcanic bodies. Mercurian, bigger than the moon up to around the size of the Mercury. Lunarian, smaller than Mercury up to the size of the moon. Okay. Sub-Terran, moon the size of Mercury up to about the size of Mars. Terran, super rare, moons Earth-sized or bigger. T, terrestrial planet, rocky composition, sub-Terran, 0.3 to 0.5 the size of Earth. Terran, 0.5 to 2 times the size of Earth. Super Terran, 2 to 10 times the mass of Earth. G, gas giant planet, gas composition, Neptunian, Jovian. D, dark world. Each dark world is unique. They exist in only sub-singularity dimensional spheres. They can be any other type of classification as well. Subtypes. Usually given to M, D, or T class planets, planets can have more than one subtype. These are mostly about climate, civilization as defining features. F, frozen world. Humans can't survive the elements without special equipment. Not necessarily ice, just cold. Mars would be subtype F. H, extreme heat. Desert world. Could also be L, but usually have very little or even no surface water. Biodiverse, essentially like Earth. W, ocean world with little or no land. Generally must be 85% or more water. Subtype W plus subtype F is essentially an ice world. I, intelligent life native to the world or colonized it. There are further subcategories based on what type of intelligence. Type 0 primitive, type 1, a developing species with low technology, currently mastering control of their planet and star system. Type 2, exploring their solar system and beyond. Type 3, high technological advancement beyond most spacefaring species. Type 4, ultra advanced, highly dangerous. Type Z, remnants of a past civilization, an abandoned world. L, life-supporting habitable. Has life on it in the form of plants and animals. No intelligent life. Humans may or may not need pressure suits to survive. 1, plants and insects only. 2, plants and small animals. 3, megaflora and fauna. 4, bacteria, microscopic. No macroscopic life. O, breathable atmosphere for most carbon-based life. N, noxious, toxic atmosphere. C, cataclysmic, a world that used to be inhabited or inhabitable, but some cataclysm has struck, rendering it uninhabitable. S, synchronous orbit, a tidal-locked planet. V, volcanic. Volcanism can appear on any other world, but volcanic worlds are dominated by active volcanism. Cryovolcanism, normal volcanism. Empty worlds. No structures, no plants, no animals. Rocky, barren, little to no atmosphere. Rogue planet, also called nomads. Rogue planets are planets that were ejected from their solar systems. They float freely through the galaxy and are generally both dark and cold. A few of these so-called nomads have retained their atmosphere and heat through internal or unknown mechanisms. Okay, man, that is a lot of different planet classifications, but it's super useful. I hope this is something you can access at any point, because very handy. So we're on a moon that's Lunarian. So it's smaller than Mercury, but up to the size of the moon. Gotcha. So as you were saying, Dawes.
I'm picking up a magnetic field too. For all intents and purposes, it looks like a typical terrestrial satellite. Asher, what do you think? Can you hear anything?
The young pilot shut his eyes, his head dipping forward as his expression went soft. He rested 2 fingers on his forehead and seemed to be listening intently. Telepath?
I can hear a soft, mournful song. Hollow. Lonely. It's like a whisper from a place that's never known light.
That might be me. No one knows why virtuosos perceive certain types of quantum vibrations as song, and this psychic phenomenon remains poorly understood. Star song most often refers to the more general perception of quantum vibrations for the purpose of folding space. For virtuosos, this is an ever-present hum when they are traveling in space or looking at the night sky from the surface of a planet. No one understands why seeing stars amplifies a virtuoso's ability to hear quantum vibrations. Some particularly talented virtuosos hear songs and things other than stars in space-time, frequently perceiving other types of matter as having its own unique sound as well. Generally, this still includes celestial bodies such as planets and planetary satellites. This is generally referred to as cosmic music. So he's a virtuoso. How interesting.
But there's life down there too. A lot of it. Millions of faint voices. And something else. Like a heartbeat in the emptiness.
He looked up again, expression strangely serious as he stared at the planet drifting alone in the dark.
It's almost like there's another voice behind everything else. Something faint and difficult to hear. Don't know what it is.
Well, that's disturbing. What does that even mean?
No idea. I'm just telling you what I hear. Anything dangerous in whatever you're sensing, Asher? It doesn't work that way, Noel. You know that. I hear the song, that's all. Alright. What are surface conditions like, Dawes? Frace.
Weather seems pretty calm. I'm reading a lot of biodiversity down there, though. Asher's millions of voices. No immediate signs of civilization. Most likely just plant and animal life.
It would be pretty terrifying if we found signs of civilization in here. It's weird enough there's anything living down there at all. But from what I'm seeing, nothing points to intelligent life. Not from preliminary scans. Looks safe enough. What next? Organize a team. Get our asses down there as quick as we can. How long have we got? EM drive will hold out for about 8 hours based on the current state of elotonic matter decay. Plenty of time. Asher, settle us into orbit. I want us to scan every inch of this place before we go down. Yes, sir.
Wow. And hello, new person.
I'm not picking up any larger life forms within a 3-kilometer radius, but there's a plethora of smaller ones. The biodiversity is incredible.
Irin? Ren? Irin? I'm gonna go with Irin.
I'm still amazed there's anything organic here in the first place. This plant life is astonishing. The bioluminescence is more extreme than anything I've seen before. Reminds me of home, almost. Too humid, though, and not nearly windy enough. The fact it has enough atmosphere to be humid at all is odd. Considering nothing about this world should be possible, very little about it could surprise me more than the fact it even exists.
Irin stopped to take thorough scans of yet another plant, this one with broad leaves edged with a rosy glow. It was impossible to sample everything, but they'd log what they could, and future missions could spend more time learning about it. And he was still taking at least a few small biosamples for later study in one of the ship's labs. But that would be after a comprehensive analysis of each potential subject in an isolated containment chamber.
Noel, there it is! Just like we said.
Irin looked to where the others had stopped a fair distance ahead of where he was. He quickly closed the container and jogged to catch up to them. Dawes was pointing to something obscured by the foliage.
Yeah. That doesn't look like a natural formation.
By the way, I like the coat. Very nice.
Doesn't look like a natural formation. Noel, it's a fucking pyramid. Yes, I can see that, Asher. It is indeed a fucking pyramid.
But what the hell was it doing there?
Not sure what it's made of either. Some material I've never seen before. It's clearly artificial in nature, though. There aren't any life forms inside it, and our scans didn't pick up any other traces of this material nearby. With this amount of overgrowth, it looks to be abandoned. Do we check it out? With caution. With an extreme amount of caution. We came this far already, after all. Looks like we may have stumbled on something even more extraordinary than we thought.
Ah.
Noel, come on. We might as well go back to the ship if all we're going to do is stand in the door. You've run every scan imaginable. Twice. I agree with Asher this time. We've encountered the weird before. At some point, we have to just take a closer look. Encountering the weird is probably what has him wary, Dawes. If you remember Planet HG-23. I hope he remembers, considering how close we came to destroying our ship trying to get out of orbit. We're not going to learn anything else standing in the door.
I think we tripped the alarm.
Probably not going to get ourselves...
All conversation cut off when the entire place lit up at once. Asher, who'd gone a little ahead of the others while they were speaking, froze in place. Well done.
Guys?
Dawes was staring hard at the scanner in his hand.
No signs of danger, but... Dawes.
The other man looked up, going silent at the sight of the large cube on the other side of the room. That is a large cube. It was a little larger than a meter on every side, and it was hovering maybe 20 centimeters above the floor, anchored by heavy clasps that retracted as the place lit up. It continued to hover in place, a soft hum emanating from it.
What is it, Dawes? I don't know. The energy readout is stable. No dangerous radiation or anything I can detect. It's, a cube. I mean, I can see that. It's an enormous cube. Thanks, you two. That's incredibly helpful. Let's proceed carefully. And Asher, don't touch anything this time. My god, that was 2 years ago.
Noel chuckled as they all went further inside. Asher didn't take his eyes off the large glowing cube as he eased towards it.
Asher, what are you doing? I don't know. Everything else went silent when we stepped inside this building, even the black hole. But there's something like a melody at the back of my head. Don't know what it is. Dawes, thoughts? There are several possibilities. It's hard to imagine any sort of intelligent life evolving here, but we can't rule out the possibility. It seems more likely another Type 2 or Type 3 species was using this place for some other purpose, though.
Okay, so this was a type of intelligence. The United Coalition of Worlds has a standardized classification of species that categorizes them based on their level of advancement. The scale currently goes from Type 0 to 4, with sub-levels in some of the types. Species in the galactic community tend to be at some level of Type 2, which generally refers to species who have left their own solar systems, but are bound by familiar methods of travel. Type 0, primitive species who have no significant technological advancement. Type 1, developing civilizations who are still confined to their solar systems due to limited technology. Type 2, civilizations who have advanced past their own systems and are capable of interstellar travel. And then subtype A, sublight traveling species who utilize things like sleeper ships for exploration due to their slow speeds, or who haven't mastered things like artificial gravity. Or B, species who have discovered the wormhole system and are capable of joining the galactic community. Type 3, highly advanced species who have begun to utilize megastructures and manipulate space-time. 4, also referred to as Archaeans. These are considered highly advanced species with technology beyond the understanding or capability of Type 1 to 3 races. They have been spacefaring for tens of thousands of years and are capable, for instance, of leaving the galaxy or entering other parts of the multiverse. Most of them do not engage with species of lower technology, and many are considered highly dangerous. And then hypothetical is Type 5. Hyper-advanced species that predate the formation of other life in the galaxy, potentially seeded from other galaxies or universes. Okay, interesting.
Hard to know what sub-level we're looking at if that's true. Could have been someone like us, could have been a bit more advanced. I agree. I doubt we're looking at the remnants of something that evolved on this world, so they would have come from the outside like we did. Aside from the, huge floating cube, it looks like we have a few other things of note in here. I'm pretty sure some of it's technology. And again, not sure I recognize the design.
The three of them moved through the small building carefully, drawn towards the center to that cube.
A lot of these look like crates of some kind. Containers for something. Some sort of ancient storage room. Fascinating.
He was still circling the cube, a look of confusion on his face. When he reached a hand towards it, almost of his own accord, Noel grabbed his wrist and shook his head.
No touching.
Dawes brushed some loose vines away from the carvings etched in the walls. He'd have to get some images of this to check against the database. He really wasn't convinced it was Fermian at all.
It doesn't look like anyone's been here for a while.
Noel moved away from the cube and nudged one of the supposed crates with his foot. It really did look like an ancient storage room. At any rate, it didn't seem dangerous. If this place was going to react badly to them, it would have already. So they were probably fine to poke around.
Is this made of caltrillium? Looks like it might be. Can you get a read on the contents? Some of it. Different metals. Most of it looks normal. Then there's that same stuff the cube there is made of too. Some of the containers are made of that as well. Okay. How much time do we have left? 5 hours, give or take. Let's look around a little then. Erin, tell the others to set up a containment shield in cargo hold 2. If everything turns out well, we'll have some interesting knickknacks to send back to R&J. We might even get a bonus this time. Yes, sir.
Noel hadn't been counting on a find like this when he got up this morning. But if the state of this place was anything to go on, it was either a race that was long gone, or one that had forgotten all about their little storehouse in a black hole. That said, abandoned artifacts were bread and butter for the Ophelia, and you really didn't get much more abandoned than this. It was going to be a pretty amazing find.
Noel, Raif says we've got about 1.5 hours left before elotonic matter decay reaches a critical level. Sounds about right. We're wrapping up the last of it now.
They already had a small remote vehicle loaded up with the last of the containers and movable items from inside the building. Whatever this place was, all the artifacts inside would get a thorough study. If not by the Ophelia, then by others when they hauled it all back to space dock. So far, so good. It didn't take long for the team to make it back to the ship with the last of it. They unloaded the remaining batch into the cargo hold with everything else, including that huge cube. It was back in one corner, still humming away. They'd been able to pull it back to the ship easily since it was still hovering above the ground. How? None of them could work out. And now they had sensors monitoring it, though they couldn't penetrate the outer casing with their scanners to get readings on the inside. Studying it would come later. For now, they needed to get out of this place while they still could. The team stepped into the adjacent decontamination room. 20 minutes, and a few invasive scans later, they were heading back to their stations and getting ready to leave the planet. Mission accomplished. Or it would be as soon as they were back in real space.
Welcome back, Noel. Sounds like you guys had a pleasant trip. Can't wait to see what you brought us.
Everyone's going to have an absolute field day with our cargo when we can have a proper look at it. Erin would have brought back enough to keep Labo 1 busy for months if he could have.
While the rest of us get to poke around in some unknown tech.
If Dawes can identify it, of course. It's a big database to run through. And this time around, I don't want to let the others poke too deep. This stuff is still functional, so we may need to leave it to everyone back home.
Shrevy will be devastated to hear that.
She'll cope. It's one thing to poke at some non-functional bit of tech. We have a whole cargo hold of stuff lit up like it was built yesterday.
Fair enough.
How are we doing on time?
We've got about 40 minutes of elotonic matter left.
More than enough.
Where's Dawes?
He stayed in the cargo hold to run a few more scans on the items. He suggested you could handle takeoff on your own.
The first officer grinned in response and relocated to Dawes' usual station.
I suppose I'll manage.
Hello. Other new person.
Raif, how's engineering looking? We're ready to head up.
Yeah, about that.
That doesn't sound good. What's going on?
I don't know. Engines won't power up, Noel. Like, something's interfering with the... I don't even know what. Hang on. Cam, get over here and help!
The engineer's voice faded to a garble, and there was nothing but silence on the comm channel as they cut the connection. Brace and Noel shared a look.
What were you saying about more than enough time?
Noel, what the hell did you bring onto the ship this time?
Nothing that should interfere with the engines, Raif. We checked it and cleared it all.
Yeah, well, engines were in perfect working order before you loaded up cargo hold O2 with Leo knows what.
Language, Nifunian. Leo is a word related to the common belief among Mylorians that the universe is both conscious and self-aware, and that all other life stems from and is connected to that consciousness.
And we've got about half an hour to figure it out before our elotonic matter decays and we can't get back out of this place.
Damn it. Would have been nice to know before we spent the last 6 hours dragging it out of that place.
I'm not in the habit of running the engines just to make sure your weird-ass artifacts aren't screwing with them, Noel.
Dawes, we're going to have to start dumping cargo. Something's interfering with the engines and we're stuck if we can't figure it out. Start with that damn cube. It's the only thing with an energy signal remotely strong enough to impact the engines.
Not really. I mean, I'll do it if you're sure, but there shouldn't be any reason for this thing to affect the engines. Its energy output is pretty weak, actually, in spite of how it looks. And even if it was stronger, if something like this could affect the engines, everything we brought on board would be affecting them.
Well, something is sure as hell doing it.
Fine. We'll toss the priceless artifact that could be literally anything out the cargo hold door.
Yeah, I don't care about how priceless it is.
For all we know, it's not even Type 2, Raif. Or Type 3. It could be arcane in origin, you know.
I don't care about that arcane bullshit either. If we get stuck here, we're dead. Nothing's worth that.
Fine. But you better keep looking for another reason the engines aren't working. Because nothing on the scan shows this thing should be able to affect an engine of all things. It's like expecting the energy signal from my sonic toothbrush to affect them.
Last I checked, you didn't get your toothbrush out of an alien structure in a damn black hole, Dawes!
The comm went silent, and Dawes huffed a frustrated sigh. He stared down at the cube with more than a little regret. Unless it was sending out a signal his scans couldn't detect, this thing couldn't be the culprit. Ugh. He'd have to be satisfied with images. Having to dump it before getting the chance to find out anything else was painful. But not as painful as being trapped in a dimensional sphere until their power ran out and they all died. Raif had him on that one. He set a hand on it, intending to nudge it closer to the entrance. It was the first time anyone had touched it with their bare hand. That might have been what did it. There's going to be an awakening. The cube reacted in the instant his skin came into contact with it. The light within the panels pulsed once, then again. All 4 restraints they'd put on it deactivated and released at once. Dawes let out a surprised cry and staggered back as the pulsating rapidly increased, flared bright. Then the cube went dark and it fell to the ground with a thud that shook the floor.
Engines are back! I told you it was that damn thing you brought on board!
But I didn't even...
Right, are we good to go?
Just like that, everything is functioning within normal parameters. We're powering up right now. Tell Asher to get us the hell out of here.
Wait, I didn't get the cube off the ship. It just powered down suddenly.
Good enough for me. Get to decon, then up to your station, Dawes.
But I...
Poor Dawes. They cut the communications channel, leaving Dawes staring at the cube in dismay.
What the hell is...
It let out a hiss, a small stream of some kind of gas, maybe water vapor, released from 2 of the edges. The circular panel on the front, which Dawes hadn't even realized was a door of some kind, slid up, revealing a dark interior. He took another step back as a hand slid out from inside, grasping the edge of the cube. For a moment, Dawes forgot to breathe as realization hit him. There was someone in there. Then a figure in dark clothes was dragging itself from the cube. Dawes watched, eyes wide and body frozen in place. The person, humanoid, half crawled from the cube and staggered to her feet. She clung to the side, silvery hair falling into her eyes. She lifted her head, her foggy silver eyes lighting on Dawes' surprised face. A blank look on her face, she staggered towards him, one hand outstretched, before she collapsed. Dawes stumbled forward, catching her without thinking. Nice reflexes.
Oh shit.
Attention everyone, your captain speaking. We are free from the black hole and exiting the ergosphere. Everyone can breathe easy. Mission accomplished.
Dawes' hand slammed into the comm panel nearby.
Dr. Eriks, you may want to come down to the decon chamber. Noel, you too. We have a problem.
Ooh. And that's the end of the prologue. Chapter 1, A Sleeping Legend. I want to get a little bit with our girl. I thought about stopping it there, but I'm like, I want to see our girl, though.
I hope we'll at least meet again someday. I truly hope your path leads to a point where we can meet again. I have so much I want to tell you.
The muffled voice was fading, and the speaking figure had become little more than a blurred silhouette against the light. I tried to reach for him, tried to get my mouth to form a response, tried to think.
You stupid bastard.
I never go for these options. Let's do that for a change. Father. I reached a hand out, or tried. My body was already going numb, restricting my movements. You stupid bastard. The words filtered through my mind as darkness enveloped me. I don't think my father heard them as I fell into slumber. The last thought I had was that if we ever did meet again, I'd be sure to say them to his face loud and clear. Oh, there she is! She looks so good. It was also the first thought I had when I woke. But in the moments after opening my eyes, everything was fuzzy and spinning. The thoughts whirled away from me in a haze of confusion and vertigo. I was closed in, cramped. It was dark. But there was light nearby. A person. I could sense them just outside. I crawled out of that damned cube, hair hanging in my face and words clinging to my heavy tongue like mud. And I took 2 steps before quite literally falling into the chest of a man whose face I didn't see before I was unconscious again. Whoever it had been, I was certain it hadn't been my father. They'd been too short, and they hadn't felt like any of my father's people. Then that thought was also lost to the haze of sleep. Ooh, I like that eye-closing animation. It was only later I could look back at that moment and work out exactly what had happened. At the time, it was just a blurred confusion of sights and sounds, most of which were just beyond the edge of consciousness, so I couldn't focus on them. Later, I could draw a sharp line between my time in the cube and the foggy unconsciousness after I left it. While in the stasis cube, my slumber was dreamless oblivion. There was only a faint song that filtered dreamily through my consciousness. After that, sleep was normal. The song had faded. There were dreams, or memories, that filtered through as I hovered somewhere between consciousness and unconsciousness. I couldn't hold on to any of them long enough to remember what they were each time I rose to a near-waking state. There were also voices. Fuzzy at first, then clear. Though I couldn't move or open my eyes, I could listen. It didn't even occur to me until I'd been awake for a while that being able to understand them was something I should be grateful for. They were speaking the language I'd grown up with on Laertis, a Terran language, not Veleian. A T-class Terran world orbiting a yellow dwarf star in the Sol system, Earth. Noted for its populous species, Terrans, a resilient humanoid species known for their charming resilience and general inquisitiveness, Earth joined the UCW around 900 years ago, shortly after entering the interstellar community. The current average lifespan of a Terran is around 180 to 190 UC standard years. Impressive. I understood the significance of that only after I realized what my situation actually was. This is kind of an awesome medical bay. I quickly realized I was in a medical bay. I could hear the equipment. And of course the voices were ever present. I tried to respond once before I realized I couldn't move. My body was heavy, thoughts still a little sluggish. One voice, I'd learned, belonged to Laren, a doctor. The other was Laren's partner, a man named Frace. They were mostly discussing me, which was understandable. I had learned a lot about my situation, but they had learned little about me. Each wrong speculation amused, but also annoyed me, because I couldn't respond to any of it. Instead, unable to move or speak, I was caught in the absurdity of listening but being unable to say a word. Oh, cutie.
Why is she unconscious again when she just woke up?
It's nothing to worry about, Frace. This is common with long-term hibernation. No matter the species, it's difficult for the body to go straight from stasis to fully conscious after such a long time. We see sleepers like this linger in a semi-conscious state for at least some period before they fully awaken.
How long will it last, Laren? Null is close to a complete meltdown over this development.
I've never seen Null close to a meltdown over anything. You're the one that seems to be panicking, love.
Of course I'm panicking. We just pulled a person out of a black hole, Laren.
We've pulled weirder things out of black holes before, and if not us, then others have.
A black hole? That jerk put me in a black hole? Hiding me away in a dimensional sphere? What in the world?
How long, Laren?
It's difficult to say. It may depend on how long she was in stasis, which is something I can't pinpoint from medical scans. Maybe if she was fully Terran, but as it is, more than half her physiology is a complete mystery. I know it was a while, that's all.
I can't believe she's even part Terran.
Interspecies children aren't that uncommon, Frace. Though I admit it's not usually this difficult to locate the other genome.
She was in a damn black hole! In some kind of weird structure, possibly archaean. I don't care how common interspecies children are. That's not normal. Do you know how much power is needed to keep someone in a suspended state for a long period of time? And that cube wasn't connected to any sort of external power source. On top of that, it was barely putting out an energy signal. How is that even possible?
That's not really my area of speciality, I'm afraid.
Given where she was, and the nature of that stasis pod, I have to assume she's part Terran and part some unknown archaean species. How the hell that happened, I have no idea. Since when are archaeans interested in the rest of us?
We don't know everything there is to know about archaeans. And for the record, just because the stasis unit she was in is advanced, that doesn't mean this person is archaean.
Who else is building structures inside dimensional spheres?
Even if the structure was of potential archaean origin, it still doesn't mean this person is. Archaeans aren't the only unknown species. Anyway, based on my tests, I would estimate she's somewhere between 23 and 28 UC standard years.
I was curious what a UC standard year is. A year as measured by the United Coalition of Worlds to allow for a standard measurement of time across all member worlds. Colloquially, people will refer to time as marked according to a specific planet as a turn, or half-turn, quarter-turn, etc. This is just a way of indicating that a non-standard time frame is being used. By sheer happenstance, a UC standard year happens to currently align closely to a full year of Earth. Weird. Strange. The more you know. Okay, so humans are now living 180 to 190 Earth years. Interesting.
Okay. Or she was at the time she went into stasis.
Huh. 23 to 28? I suppose it depended how you calculated that. In linear standard time, maybe. Oh? The plot thickens?
If she's not Archaean, what do you think she was doing in a place like that?
Beyond the scope of medical scans, I'm afraid. But there are multiple possibilities. Non-Archaeans infiltrate dimensional spheres all the time. We did. That's how we found her. You're a scientist, Phrase. You know better than to draw conclusions before you have all the facts. We have no idea why she was there, but it might have nothing to do with Archaeans.
We can't rule out the possibility, though.
We can't. But there are millions of species out there we've never encountered, and plenty of them are at comparable levels to us, not Archaean. There could be some specific reason she took refuge there. There's no need to assume she's going to wake up, start attacking us with tentacles, and taking over the galaxy. Medical scans haven't shown a single tentacle-like structure.
Hilarious. I'm just pointing out that you don't know she's not an Archaean either, Laren.
I've gone through every recent Xeno medical database at my disposal, and I haven't turned up a match for her non-Terran DNA. But I don't have to tell you, we don't have a lot of medical data on the Archaean races we've encountered. What we do have on them isn't easy to access from here.
And those are just the ones we have information on. There are probably hundreds we don't even know about yet.
Very true. Which means that when it comes to this person's background, I can't draw any specific conclusions beyond what I already have. She's around 1/4 Terran, and she has some very unique structures in her brain. Beyond that, she's alive and unconscious. That's all I know.
Dawes has been trying to identify that technology we pulled out of there. We have a lot more information on Archaean technology than we have on their various biologies, so he thought he might find something.
And?
He has nothing so far.
I'm sure it takes more time to scour through information on all the dead worlds uncovered in recent years than it does to go through the sparse medical records. But I really think you're overreacting. Most likely this is just some slightly more advanced race we're unfamiliar with. Noel thinks so too. He said as much when he stopped by earlier. I don't think Dawes is going to find anything in Archaean databases because I don't think there's anything to find. You're too hung up on where we found them.
It isn't just that. I told you already that the stasis unit is...
I know, Frace, but we're not going to learn anything just from talking about it.
So they were stumped about who and what I was, but had considered the Archaean angle. I couldn't really fault Frace for the apprehension. He was mistaken about how best to identify me, though. Unlike with other Archaeans, there was undoubtedly far more on Veleian biology than their technology. But Laren sounded like they didn't have access to some of the more robust databases. Still, if information on Veleians was that buried, how long was I in stasis? One of them shifted slightly, and I felt his weight against the side of the biobed, leaning against it, I assumed.
Even if he can't identify them, Dawes is already working on at least dating some of the items that were with her. That may give us an idea how long she was in there. For now, at the very least, we have to assume she may be as much of a relic as that building we found her in.
Did he just call me a relic? Rude. Hey, her face changed. Scrunch. Though if it had been a particularly long time, he might be right. I didn't want to think about that yet. I had a sinking feeling I'd come to learn it had been a while. A very, very long while. My father wouldn't have put me in a place like that if it was only going to be a few months or years. He specifically chose such an isolated location. It would have been because he meant me to stay there for a very long time. But why? I still didn't know.
As I said, fretting about it in my medical bay won't change the situation, Phrase.
I know. It's just... If we'd known that was a stasis unit, we'd have handled it with a hell of a lot more care. This kid is going to be distraught when she wakes up.
I wouldn't call her a kid exactly.
She looks like a kid.
So does Raif, and he's older than you.
That doesn't count.
Love, you don't have to take this so hard. Unexpected circumstances are part of this line of work.
They don't usually involve other people, Laren. What if she's been in there for thousands of years? You think she'll be thankful we dumped her in an unfamiliar time and place, without stopping to consider the consequences?
Well, given that she's a quarter Terran, I'd assume she hasn't been in there longer than Terrans have been in space.
Your people have been in space for nearly 950 years, Laren.
If it's 950 years, then... How long had Terrans been in space back then? Ugh, I'm too tired for maths right now. Big mood.
Has Noel heard back from R&J?
Not yet. Knowing them, they'll be completely unfazed by it. And we still have to work out what to do about the guild. If we have to report this to them, the documentation is going to be a disaster.
The guild? Whoa. The guilds are large conglomerates that focus on a single aspect of spacefaring civilization. There are guilds for commerce, but also those focused on exploration, mining, trade, travel. They are massively powerful political groups that have their own seat at the Alliance. There are private companies that operate in all sectors, but they face higher fees and it's harder for them to do business. Generally speaking, guilds hold the most power and resources in a given sector, and even private groups are likely to have to report at least some of their activities to a guild if they're operating within that guild's jurisdiction. The guild's buttheads... Oh, they're not... the guild's buttheads. The guild's buttheads. Good grief. Occasionally, but have to work together to maintain a functioning galactic community. The main guilds that operate in the galaxy are the Exploration Guild, guild that maps the galaxy and plans UCW-sanctioned colonization and expansions. The Mining Guild oversees much of the resource gathering and mining across the system, does not manage just traditional mining of minerals, but also gathering of heavy elements from nebulas or exotic matter from black holes and the like. The Commerce Guild manages trade routes and currency exchange routes in participating systems. Anyone operating any sort of trade and commerce outside the guild's controls usually pays much higher fees for nearly every transaction and are subject to far more searches from UCW patrols. The Nexus Guild maintains and oversees the Wormhole Nexus and Inner Meridians. They are the ones that keep the gate system up and functioning. The Navigation Guild, the guild that maintains, regulates, and trains virtuosos. They seek out virtuosos at a young age and raise them, then hire them out. They are trying to build a virtuoso network that can ferry ships from place to place without having to rely on the gate system at all, though their current success is limited. The Defense Guild currently disbanded. Okay.
Won't be the first person pulled out of long-term stasis in deep space.
First one pulled out of a bloody black hole, though. Pulled out of a structure of Archaean origin.
We're back on that topic.
Come on, Laren. I get what you're saying about that kid's history, but I'll eat Noel's leather jacket if that stasis unit isn't Archaean, which means this kid probably is too.
That sounds quite unhealthy for your digestive system. I'll work out a treatment plan, just in case.
I'm just saying, there's no reason for someone who isn't of an Archaean species to be in an Archaean stasis unit.
Then it was an Archaean species that was perfectly fine mating with humans at some point. Which is encouraging.
I mean, not a bad point. Having enough interest or respect for a species to be okay procreating with them was better than the way a lot of Archaeans viewed the less advanced. As I lay there listening to them, I tried to sort through all the information I'd gleaned from their conversation. There was the stasis and black hole situation. They'd covered that quite thoroughly. For the rest, I'd worked out that I was on a vessel in deep space, of course. That was implicit. I'd terrified someone named Daz when I apparently crawled out of a glowing box like an ancient specter. I'd woken up to that statement and took a bit to realize it was referring to me. And now they were quite concerned about whether I was dangerous enough to destroy the ship when I awakened. Amused, irritated, relieved, distressed. I choose to be amused. I'd always been one to make an entrance, I suppose. Actually, you know, speaking of, like, reaction and stuff. What's these things? Oops. I think I clicked on a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, so these things don't actually do anything yet. If I'm reading that correctly. I assume. I mean, I wasn't really. This one seemed more dramatic than usual, but it was still funny. There were some worrying implications of their conversations, though. Introducing myself in the midst of fear about Archaeans, then having to potentially explain my heritage, was not my preferred method of saying hello. But there was nothing I could do about any of that until it actually happened. For now, I could find phrases panic humorous and ignore the rest. Largely because I couldn't move my stupid body. What is with that anyway? Okay, deep breath, Wil. Just focus. Everything else aside, I had to solve this stupid problem of being awake but unable to move. Instead of trying to sit up or open my eyes, which I'd been doing the entire time anyway, I focused on just moving my toes or my fingertips. Something small. And nothing. I huffed an annoyed sigh, pleased when I at least huffed properly. So I did it again. Another short, angry puff of air. It wasn't much of a victory, but I'd take what I could get at this point. Even a single voluntary action was better than nothing. I tuned out the doctor and Phrase, as they both had moved away from me again anyway. Instead, I focused on my breathing, slowing it down or speeding it up. Strangely, it felt like doing just that much had begun to finally pull the rest of my body out of the haze. Little by little, the numbness receded. Like one proper voluntary movement inched the door open for others. The next time I tried to move my feet, my toes curled under. An even bigger victory. My hand moved, fingernails scraping across the crinkly bedding. Nice. The sudden sensation was like a lightning bolt through my body. I jolted straight upright with a strangled gasp when all I'd wanted to do was move my arm. Then I sat there with my heart slamming against my ribs like I'd woken from a nightmare. My entire body tingled with sudden awareness, uncomfortable pinpricks flickering through my chest and arms, and even in my knees and feet. And whoa, I was really dizzy. Sluggish nausea clawed at my stomach, and I almost regretted moving at all. I braced myself up, hands gripping the edge of the medical bed hard enough my fingers hurt. The nearby conversation cut off in an instant, and there was only silence as I squinted ahead at the unfamiliar room, hair falling in my eyes and obscuring my view. Why is my vision so blurry? Hello? As I put one of my hands up to them, a door to my right slid open, and someone else came in. I looked their way, squinting even more at the fuzzy form I could only just tell was a person.
Looks like I arrived at just the right time.
The voice that spoke was tinged with hesitant curiosity.
Yeah. We may be in need of your linguistic expertise sooner than we thought, Gates. Our guest just woke up. Again.
I can see that.
Let's focus on trying to clear our vision first. For the moment, I ignored them and rubbed my eyes again. No point in trying to talk to people I couldn't even see. Stasis was complete rubbish if this was the wake-up process. Why was everything so blurry? And my mouth tasted like a moldy sock. Not that I'd ever eaten a moldy sock, but I could imagine.
She hasn't said anything yet. Think she can understand us?
Frey spoke in a hushed voice, almost as if he thought I wouldn't hear him or realize they were speaking. I almost smiled.
If she can't, that's why I'm here. Though I'll admit, I don't recognize the symbols on the items you brought in, so I have no idea if I'll be able to pick up the language. But I'll do my best. Do we know her species?
Well, she's at least part Terran. One assumes she'd have been exposed to at least one Terran language at some point, but it's not really a guarantee.
If it's Earth, our translators should be able to help with communication. Her other species? I still haven't figured it out.
I was only half-heartedly listening to them as I stared at my hands, blinking rapidly to try to clear my vision.
Well, that'll make things more interesting, I guess. Maybe you could try talking to her.
Oh, I think it's working. Feels like my vision is getting better. I slowly winked one eye at a time, not realizing how I probably looked incredibly silly to the others, when I realized for the first time in my life that I couldn't actually wink my left eye. I had to reach up and close it with my hand. I didn't even notice a new person had come closer to me until he spoke.
Hello. Can you understand what I'm saying? My name is Gates Reiner.
I looked up at him again, squinting. His face was still a blur.
I don't think she does, Gates.
Thank you, Frace, but I was speaking to our guest.
I realized the moment I opened my mouth that speaking wasn't going to be any easier than seeing. My mouth and throat were bone dry. The words I'd been trying to say rasped out as a whispery gasp. This was ridiculous. I felt like some sort of bioconstruct that needed its parts lubricated to function. I guess most species are bioconstructs in a way.
She seems disoriented. Maybe we should give her more time.
That was a pathetic attempt at speech. I tried again, this time barely working up enough saliva to swallow before I spoke in a voice weaker than normal, but at least audible. What year is it? Is that a reference? What year is it? There was a brief silence. The linguist was the first to get over the surprise and answer as he moved to my side.
It's 3140, in standard UC years.
Is this different from before? This is different. Governance of the galaxy is left to individual worlds and systems who take care of their own affairs. However, with more and more species entering the galactic community, a meditating body was needed to help keep intergalactic peace, determine intergalactic laws, and generally protect the security of all sapient races. Thus, the United Coalition of Worlds was born. There are currently 2,113 members, but many more species have chosen not to join, or have not yet encountered any UC members to know of its existence.
Frace, please get her something to drink. Dry mouth is a common side effect of long-term stasis. Water may help.
The doctor came towards me as well, checking a scanner in their hand as they did so. I wasn't paying much attention to them, instead, doing the maths in my head. If it was 3140, then 493 standard years. That's how long I'd been asleep. Almost 5 centuries. My stomach felt like it dropped through the floor. That bastard. He really was crazy, wasn't he? He had to have known how long it would be.
I know you're probably confused, so please, just take a moment to get your bearings.
I licked my lips, still struggling to form coherent words. I'm not as confused as you'd think. I heard you speaking earlier. I was conscious, though I couldn't move. I know where I am, and how I got here. Here you go. I smiled hesitantly as I took the glass of water, drinking a few swallows. Instant relief for the dry throat.
Did you work out how long you were in that stasis pod?
Nearly 500 years. My voice faltered again. I was there for nearly 500 years, before your ship found me on that dark world. Frace and Laren shared a look with one another, and I returned it with a dry smile. I've been conscious for a while. I was just unable to move. The room was silent until Gates spoke again.
Well, it looks like my skills aren't needed here. I'll go inform Noel she's awake.
He gave me a pitying smile over his shoulder as he headed for the door.
Welcome to the Ophelia.
And he was gone.
You know where you are and how you arrived, so you might already know that I'm Frace Ericks, the second in command here. And that our lovely doctor is Laren Ericks, my partner.
I'm Wil Nymera. I imagine you have a lot of questions for me.
Questions can wait.
I have to disagree. We need...
Frace, hush.
His mouth snapped closed in a way that almost made me smile.
I don't want you to bombard my patient when she just woke up. Now, Wil, are you experiencing any throat pain?
Laren held a medical scanner up, checking the readings as they aimed it towards my throat. I'm not in pain. Despite how I sound, this is mostly normal for me.
Oh, I see the cause of the problem. Your vocal folds are...
They're underdeveloped. I know.
I didn't notice before, since I was more concerned about your vitals all this time.
This is common for my father's people. It's not an abnormality. Actually, it's abnormal they're even this developed. That's entirely because of my Terran heritage.
Oh? A non-verbal species?
Like the Isteri?
I knew that species, though their situation differed from mine, but it was a good point of reference anyway, so I nodded.
Well, if it's not giving you any pain, there's no reason to worry about it. Everything else looks good. I assume anyway, since I've never seen your species before.
I could practically feel Frace wanting to ask, to clarify. I wasn't sure how I should answer. With 500 years come and gone, I couldn't be certain what the current state of things was. He was concerned about my being Archaean, but that was one thing. Veleians came with unique baggage of their own on top of being Archaean. I chewed the inside of my cheek, staring down into the half-empty glass in my hands. I might hide it for a while, but I didn't know how long that would be possible. Laren might not be able to access data about Veleians, or they may simply have not found it yet. In which case, I'd be found out soon anyway. If we were far outside the main Nexus routes, there was a possibility I would be on the ship and with this crew for a while at least. Lying to them wouldn't exactly foster a trusting relationship. No, the most comfortable route was revealing the truth. Even with my normal abilities fuzzy from recently awakening, I could tell that much. I'm proud of you for not hiding things and telling the truth. I sighed softly. This would be interesting. Telepathic explanation? Verbal explanation. Let's do verbal. You said you've never seen my species before. The part that isn't Terran, anyway?
Correct. I noticed you must have had at least one grandparent that was fully Terran, but the rest of your genome is a mystery.
That's right. My mother was half Terran.
And your father?
He is from a species that developed advanced telepathic skills a very long time ago.
Telepathy?
This... I tapped my throat to indicate my underdeveloped voice box. Is because they no longer had a need for verbal speech. So over time, they lost the ability to make vocalizations almost entirely. My verbal speech is much better than most of them.
An entirely telepathic race? I've never heard of that. Telepathy isn't efficient for complex communication, is it? With the limitations, it's hard to imagine.
I've heard of a few species where telepathy is much more common than it is in others, and more developed. But a race where it's the only means of communication is a bit...
Their voice faded and they looked down.
There is one.
Laren's eyes narrowed as they came closer to me again.
What exactly is the name of your father's species?
I took a deep breath and decided to show them by switching to the telepathic speech used by my father's people. It might be difficult to track down this species in a normal medical database, especially given how much time has passed. My father's people have always been cautious about keeping themselves concealed. There is information about us, but you'd probably have to search a historical archive to find it if you have access to one out here. I breathed a soft sigh. It was so much more comfortable speaking this way. Both Frace and Laren looked shocked at the sound of my voice in their minds. I held up a hand before Frace could blurt out whatever question was on the tip of his tongue. Before you ask, yes, I'm speaking to you both at the same time. Yes, I'm aware it's with far more clarity and coherence than most telepathic speech. And no, I'm not picking up on any of your thoughts. Broadcasting only, not receiving.
You're not hearing our thoughts at all.
No, I'm blocking them out.
Scion. That's the name of your father's species, isn't it?
That's what other people called some of them, yes. They called themselves Veleians, though. They were both silent.
You're... Fuck.
Frace!
Sorry.
Look, I was raised Terran, on a Terran colony, by a half-Terran mother. Whatever you're thinking about me right now is almost definitely overblown.
Even so, the Scions aren't even around anymore. The last rumored sighting of a Scion ship was nearly 2 centuries ago.
2 centuries. My father's was one of the last ships from the homeworld, and they were on their way out when he found me. The ship from 200 years ago must have been a Suralan ship. Eswonian. Suralan is a term that means wander, and refers to a group of Veleians that spent most of their time away from the homeworld traveling through the galaxy. So they're still around. Either that or the stragglers in Veleian space found a way out and were roaming around. Laren was still watching me calmly. They crossed their arms, running their fingertips over their chin.
All things considered, I suppose it could make sense. Given the little I know about Scions, maybe I should have expected it when we found someone with Terran DNA in what appeared to be an Archaean stasis unit. It's difficult to imagine another Archaean species having a close relationship with one of us.
Frace gave me another doubtful look before rubbing his hands over his face.
I might be able to confirm it then. I can't access the entire UC Medical Archive from here, but if I have some help, I can see if I can access any records from the...
They stopped and looked my way, hesitation on their face as if they just realized something else.
From the war.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd be able to avoid mentions of that incident. Frace was standing nearby, completely tense again. I didn't even need telepathy to see he was on edge. But I lowered my usual mental barrier just a little, just enough to catch a few snippets of stray thoughts.
Should have put her in containment like Laren said. Fooled because she looks so human. This might be bad.
I took a deep breath and tried to speak normally. If you're concerned about me being a danger to the crew, I can assure you that I'm not interested in anything but recovering. It wouldn't be wise for a single person to be hostile against the people helping her.
Some might argue that a single Scion isn't quite the same as a single person of any other race. But that's another discussion. There's plenty of time to work out all the details of your situation later. I'm sure you need more rest, Wil. Restarting the body after such a long time in stasis is an arduous process, no matter who you are. Frace, perhaps you should go find Noel, and tell him to hold off further communications with R&J for now. I think it's best to wait a while if he hasn't already sent them a message about this.
Yeah. Might be if we woke up a bloody scion. Screaming about it on non-secure channels seems like a bad plan.
Look, my being part Veleian probably isn't as dramatic as it seems, I promise. The look on his face said Frace wasn't convinced. It had been a long time. Long enough for some details to fade if Laren's words were any indication. But it was obvious Scion still had some kind of reputation in some circles, even after all this time. Or maybe it was just that the word Archaean stirred certain feelings in people, though Veleians weren't like the others. And no matter what else was true about me, I had spent enough time among them they'd left their mark on me. I knew that. But it was frustrating. If I could have at least escaped that, it would be a silver lining to cling to. Frace let out a soft sigh, dragging his hand through his feathery hair.
Laren is right. I'll leave you to get some rest and go tell the captain to halt communications for now. It was... nice to meet you, Wil.
Sure. You too. He didn't mean it, of course. But he was trying, so I couldn't hold it against him. Frace left us there, and Laren took the opportunity of us being alone to run more scans, ask questions, and start hunting down information on Veleians in the UC Medical Archive. If Frace was wary, Laren mostly seemed curious, despite that they'd wanted to keep me in a containment cell, apparently. That was totally fair, though. In all honesty, it was a surprise they hadn't, just for safety's sake, though I was certain I'd gone through decontamination. But I was sure Laren was also feeling some trepidation. But if anything, the reaction showed it was wiser to speak up now than hide it and let Laren figure it out later on. While frustrating, I was used to people being stressed about my heritage. It seems the concerns had shifted since before, though. Back then, the war had been a much more recent memory, so that had caused a different sort of response. Now that was ancient history, but it seemed like the Scion reputation had shifted closer to that of other Archaean races. In the end, I didn't think I'd be able to relax until I knew more about this crew and exactly what I was dealing with. Aw, she changed now. Cute. Unfortunately, I think I'm gonna call it there, guys. That was excellent. I could read forever if my throat would let me and if I could record that much. But we would be here for quite a bit more, probably. I enjoyed the heck out of this. Probably not a huge surprise. The writing is great. I love the characters. The art is beautiful. Music choice, fantastic. I'm already so drawn in. I love the lore. It's all so good so far. I'm excited. I'm really excited. I can't wait for this to be done at some point. Very much looking forward to seeing it progress more. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my little snapshot of a snapshot today. And if you would like to check it out for yourself, I will have a link to it on itch.io down below. Please go check it out, support Esh as she works on this. And check out her other games too, because she is awesome at what she does. But that is it for me. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, I will see you later.